Good afternoon, everyone. Today is Monday, June 17th, 2024. We're here this afternoon for a work session with Community Planning Infrastructure and Resources. I'm Kristen Stevens, Chair Pro Tem of the Board. With me is my colleague, Jody Shattuck McNally, County Commissioner in District 3. And we have our County Manager, Lorinda Volker, here. I will turn things over to Leslie Ellis, our Director of Community Planning Infrastructure Resources. We'll have folks introduce themselves as they speak and let us know what's on the agenda for today.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Good afternoon. And today, the bulk of our agenda will be hearing from Connor on the Ranch Master Plan update. And since you don't get to see him all that often, if there are other questions related to the ranch, he can answer those as well. But primarily, he'll be focusing on updates around the master plan for your benefit and for the viewing audience as well. And then we do have a couple of director updates after that. So I guess with no further ado, I'll just turn it over to you, Connor, so you can walk them through the presentation. And you should have a couple copies up there at the dais as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Leslie. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Nice to be here. My name is Connor McGrath. I'm the Director of the Ranch. And like Leslie mentioned today, we're going to talk through some of the updates of the master plan, focusing on the Phase 1 construction that we have, for the most part, completed. And you've likely witnessed and experienced some of those new additions at the ranch. And also cover the Phase 2. Phase 2 is broken into an A and a B component, A being county delivered projects and B the outcome of a public-private partnership and the new arena, which we can touch on. Yes, please. And the next one. So as you have likely experienced, as well as the public have, we have completed the majority of our Phase 1 infrastructure, which included the relocation of Arena Circle with the new lighted intersections on County Road 5 or Fairgrounds Avenue. The new 4-H Youth and Community Arena is opened as of the April 2nd ribbon cutting that you all attended. The Mac Equipment Arena is also expanded and opened. Very, very good community feedback on the size of that arena and the functionality that that has brought to the community. And we have also relocated the DNR Land Stewart Division to the ranch and completed the construction of a new outdoor arena and the new RV park, which is around 100 paved RV pedestals. We're seeing some good use out of that in partnership with the horse and livestock facilities at the ranch. Next slide, please. So as you can see on the map, we have renamed some of our buildings just to a numbered sequence, since we have some naming rights changing, coming on board and exiting. But you can get a general sense. Phase 1 is illustrated in this map in front of you, with the new Andalusian tying into Arena Circle, and then some new inner roads such as Richard Roll Way and the Service Road. The continuation of Phase 1, as I mentioned, most things are completed, but we do have an outstanding task with I-25 marquee and the column markers. So in this slide in front of you, you can see the column marker on the bottom right-hand side with the blue flag on top. The intention there is to somewhat fence post the ranch along I-25 and have a marker along Andalusian, the next marker being the marquee, and then through to the south where the Embassy Suite sits, continue with markers. So we're really making the ranch stand out as you're going along that property, but also being very mindful of night sky and some we don't want to try to do a good thing and turn out to be doing the opposite with our efforts. So we're very mindful of that. We're also working on engaging the community and engaging our customers on wayfinding. We find it hard now that our people are now finding it hard that we have 3 entrances and exit points, as well as an inner and an outer main road. How do we get to point A, B, C, and then if we park at point A, how do we get back there if we now go and experience multiple aspects of the campus? So we hope to have the wayfinding project finished by Q2 of 2025. And we did receive approval this morning for the new archway that will go across Arena Circle. So that's an archway that's going across 2 easements, 2 sidewalks, and 7 lanes of traffic. It's a very, very nice piece that stands out.
So Commissioner Shattuck McNally has a question.
Thank you, Connor. Just real quick, who we get is that from the city of Loveland, or who was I'm just curious who their approval came from?
That's from the city of Loveland.
And the planning commission, or was that?
I don't have those details.
Okay.
Staff just gave me a brief update that it was approved.
Thank you.
So moving on to the next slide, you'll see said sign, or said arch, in the upper left. It is very large. It's very pronounced. It's going to give us a great opportunity to really help people understand that you are entering a campus. For anyone that has come through the new Arena Circle entrance as of late, it is a very different feel than the old service road had. You have a monument sign at the old service road. You know you're entering into a planned unit development, or you're entering into something. Currently, when you enter in through Arena Circle, you're just going on another road. It doesn't feel like you're entering into to an experience or to a campus. So we're really excited to get this moving. As we discussed with you in an earlier work session, on the service road pictures on the right-hand side, we do look at exploring removing the existing archway for the service road and keeping the pillars. I'm going to use the term lightly of exploring. If it costs a lot and it just doesn't seem to financially make sense, we would likely bring the arches down to the image that you can see on the bottom right. So less prominent, but still effective. And then on Andalusian and County Road 5 image on the bottom left, we would look to put a monument sign there with an interchangeable feature. So you can see it today with the tractor. But if we're having the fair, we could put a somewhat tokenistic, non-operable Ferris wheel there, or something that really highlights the activity that's taking place on the campus. I wanted to give you an update on the bathhouse in the RV lot. We brought this to you maybe 2 work sessions ago, and we discussed erecting this in the RV at the RV phasing. As we all know, pricing has gone significantly through the roof, and we are looking somewhere close to $2 million to build this facility. And we're looking at value engineering this to see if it's possible, but I do not believe that it would be a good use of our taxpayers' dollars to build a $2 million bathhouse. We would look at being able to meet the needs that people could have for showering facilities, nursing facilities, toilet facilities that are using the RV campground, and incorporate those into our existing buildings. That would be a little bit of a further walk than having it right at the RV lot, but we can possibly provide some solution to the shorter walk than spending $2 million on a building that's less than 3,000 square feet. So I will keep you up to date on that, but as of this time, that project is on pause. And next we will jump into the phase 2 of the master plan. As I mentioned, phase 2A are county delivered initiatives, which include the event lawn expansion and outdoor amenities, infrastructure enhancements and improvements, and the expo hall. And then phase 2B, public-private partnership concept, but generally we're looking at the phase 2B being the new arena and the youth training center. As you're aware, we put to the market a request for proposal for a public-private partnership. We issued notice to proceed for our award, pending negotiations in Q1 2024. Unfortunately, we were not able to negotiate with the developer partners, which was the Ranch Development Partnership, and we were not able to get across the line of the private investment that we needed to see within that project for us to be able to make an advancement with those negotiations. So both the negotiations with both parties ended in Q2 of 2024, and we've directed staff to continue to explore different funding methods, whether that be federal, state, private, local, self-driven. and we'll provide an update to the board when we're a little further down the road. That all said, on the next slide, you'll see we still have other commitments that we made to the community in the ballot language for the extended sales and use tax. And some of those included the event lawn expansion, which as we're dialing this in and engaging with the community and our customers, as well as agents that we work with to bring content to Northern Colorado. We're seeing suggestions for an outdoor entertainment space. You'll see it later on a map. It's reminiscent of an amphitheater. As any of you who know me, I am hesitant to ever put an exact name to something because we like multi-purpose at the ranch. Amphitheater to me says music, and amphitheater typically means concerts, music. It doesn't mean that we can't serve 4,000 people on the stage for a dinner when it's not being used for music. So think about it more of a multi-purpose space that's shaped like an amphitheater. Outdoor concessions, teaching kitchen, and again, those multi-purpose entertainment spaces, as well as thinking about how do we service people. It's great to have a larger outdoor entertainment area, but do we have the parking? Can we activate Blue Arena or the Mac equipment facility at the same time that we activate a new outdoor entertainment area? And ensuring that we have the flow of traffic. We have, it's safe for pedestrians to be there, it's safe for our crowds to be there, and they're not landlocked when they're in and spending 2 hours at an event, but 45 minutes to park and an hour to leave. That's not the goal we have for the experience that people have. And back of house, really important in the industry, but something that's kind of like storage. We build great buildings that don't have enough storage, and we build great buildings that don't have a great back of house. So we're coming back around to take another swipe at existing buildings as well as new facilities to build a better back of house. So on this slide, you'll see it's in the massing stages at this point, where we're just putting in blocks of asphalt, or we don't have a product spelled out yet, but we have parking lots behind the Mac equipment building. So Mac equipment, for whatever reason on this map, it still doesn't have the addition, but it's that crab-looking building. And then we have the new 4-H Youth and Community building with an expanded parking lot E on your upper right, as well as new parking lots behind Mac and along County Road 5. One of the things I really want to stress to the board and make a commitment, we have no intention to make the ranch this big mass of concrete and asphalt. So we've really dialed in with our architects and planners that we expect heavy green belts. So when you're driving along County Road 5 or I-25, we want that natural buffer to be present so people just don't see a sea of parking lots. However, the content that we are bringing to the ranch is demanding that sea of asphalt for parking lots. So we're trying to find that balance of how do we meet customer needs, but also have that look and feel of the ranch that it has been for 20 years. And then new roadways that would tie into the service road. We'd be removing some roadways such as the old north entrance and adding some additional roadways that are not yet massed on this plan, but essentially would continue on from the parking to the south, cross Arena Circle and onto Rodeo, which is the very southern part of our property. So we have an additional entrance and exit point to get people off of Arena Circle. So the timing of this phase 2 on the next slide, we will begin civil infrastructure on the areas outside of the current gated bowl this fall. We will then go through summer of next year. We'll stop construction, operationalize the fair and PRCA rodeo through some of our bigger outdoor events like road nights, Good Guys, and then we will start construction again inside the bowl. And that would take us to the fair of 2026, when we would look at opening the new entertainment space with everything else that we mentioned, from teaching kitchen to concessions, restroom facilities, etc. So next steps, We're going to continue to engage our stakeholders on the developments of the master plan. I feel like that's been one of the most successful components of the ranch's master plan. That it's really important to us that we take the taxpayers' money and we mobilize it to give individuals something that they need, something that Northern Colorado also maybe wants, for us to continue to advance in ag and entertainment. Continue with Phase 2A. We've got some updates coming for the First National Bank of Omaha Expo facility. You've all heard me in the past say, and my staff tell me frequently, we don't have enough space and we continue to lose some of that business. We also see some business shoehorn themselves into that building, and the experience just isn't quite as good as it could be with a larger facility. So we have pricing back, and we'll come back to the board when we have a more solid plan of timing of construction on that building. And then, of course, just because the RFP and the P3 development negotiations ended, that's still a project that we hope and aspire to bring to the community. It's a matter of financing, and making that pencil out at this point has not yet made sense. So we'll continue to explore different funding methods. And I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come and talk all things master plan. And as Leslie mentioned earlier, I'm willing to engage in other topics too.
Great. Well, thank you, Connor. Thanks for the updates. Commissioner Shattuck McNally, questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair Pro Tem. Thank you, Connor, and appreciate the updates. Thank you, Leslie, too. I know you've been very helpful and supportive of this process. I'm glad we're still engaging stakeholders as we get through this, and I appreciate the diligence. And I wondered about construction costs and things like that. So sad to hear that, but I also understand that's a lot of money for a bathhouse. So let me just share. I had an excellent visitor experience for a concert about a week or so ago, getting into the facility, and the food and the security and the welcomingness and the flow was just superb, excellent experience. I heard that from many folks. I had so many folks who saw me in the audience. So I went and talked to them, and they were just having a great time and talked about how easy it was to get in and what a great time they had and comfortable. I just wanted to share that with you. So well done, and very excited to hear from others that are experiencing great times at the Blue Arena. I wanted to go back to the slide. Which one is it? Sorry. Back to number 11, talking about that space again. Yeah, I don't want to. It was kind of a bummer to have to pave park, because one of them was the wildflowers at the concert and talked about paved parking lots and paved paradise, all that stuff. But that started singing in my head. I was curious about those structures for the entertainment space. Are those permanent buildings, or are those just like tents for concessionaires? And then the proposed kind of the blue one that says concessions and restrooms, are those permanent buildings, or is that part of the stage? Can you kind of just give me, is this just concepts and we're just in ideas and not really something that's finalized yet? Just curious.
Thank you, Commissioner. The concession restroom facilities are the only permanent structures on the concept plan. We had asked our developer to, from a massing standpoint, to place some of the larger activities that we do on the campus with the fairs. The fair typically sees the larger removable structures. So for your perspective, in the upper right quadrant of the event lawn, so closest to the Blue Arena, you can see a large rectangle structure. That's the what we call the watering hole that you all spent some time in last year. And then the smaller white tents that you see kind of halfway down the lawn, those would represent a semi-truck. So from a massing standpoint, to give us perspective of the size of the space. But we would be looking at the stage as well as concession spaces, the teaching kitchen, and any sort of facilities outdoors. We'd be looking at those being permanent structures.
Thank you. So I see, I know kind of been out there a lot, and I see a lot of green spaces and trees also, and sidewalks. I don't think they're there now. So when we're looking at, with thinking about water and things like that, can you talk to me about when we see those green spaces? Because when you have outdoor concerts and things like that, you have to have things, landscaping for people to sit on. Just curious, what does that look like, and how much water would that require? Maybe you don't know those details right now, but that's a concern I have. We've been kind of pushing on, water conservation stuff, and so just curious about what that looks like, and what that would entail for, because that would be a lot of year-long maintenance and things like that too as well. Just not being, just curious, because I'm going to get those questions, trust me. So,
That's a good question. It's also something that we've been mindful of, and thinking about the future of entertainment outdoors with us. If we're really embarking on something, we've done it. You saw on a previous slide the last outdoor festival that we hosted with 35,000 people attend. That was without an amphitheater. It's without great sight lines. In reality, you put a tree in the middle of your lawn, you've got a bad sight line for someone. So we will be looking at having no trees on the inner lawn, really maximizing that vegetation to offer those green belts between County Road 5 and I-25. We have a nice green belt because of the topography of the site. But County Road 5 is my biggest area where I really want to make sure we're not looking like a large Walmart parking lot. So we would emphasize our tree lines and green belts around those areas. We're working with CSU. I don't want to misspeak on the division, but I think it's through the Extension Office. They focus on turf and drought-resistant grasses. The grass that you see on the inner bowl is spec'd to be a drought-resistant grass. We are also looking at all of our ditches, which doesn't seem like it's a lot of square footage, but the study has shown it is. Every ditch at the ranch would have grass removed and replaced with cobble. So it's not just we're cutting down on irrigation, but it's also a better filtration system for us. And then from a safety standpoint of staff, we're not having them at those steep angles of a ditch mowing grass. So that would gain some square footage. We obviously also have to stay within the state regulations of the percentage of irrigated space that we have on the campus. There's a study that is underway as part of the conceptual plan. We don't want to spend too much resource on that at this point, since the plan is still conceptual, but we want to have back in-house what square footage can we have as irrigated grass.
thank you, Connor. Appreciate all the details and the update. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, Connor, I have just a few questions. With regard to the test kitchen, where is that going to be housed?
So the building commissioner that is in the middle of the lawn following the concession restroom, et cetera, that you see in front of you, that building would likely house the test kitchen. So it's close to the Thomas McKee facility. The original plan was to add on to the Thomas McKee facility. As we have found with any addition that we put in a building, it's more expensive to put an addition on versus build new. So we think it can operate as not just a test kitchen, but we're also hearing from the community that local ranchers, farmers, they need some dry storage. And is there a way for us to incorporate dry storage into that teaching kitchen so that we're meeting those needs for people that serve at farmers markets or sell at farmers markets, that work with Extension. So trying to meet various needs.
Interesting. Is it primarily, do you think, going to be used by 4-H though, the test kitchen? I mean, is it going to be sort of a community thing, Extension? I mean, do we have any sense of how often and how much that would be used?
We don't at this point. We haven't divided up the use of the kitchen. The kitchen came as part of the amended master plan. To my earlier point, it was going to be in the McKee building. I think it has evolved over time as we come out post-COVID era. I think some of the programs that were running maybe aren't, or they aren't as strong as they used to be. So we've talked about at the community level, those individuals that are running food trucks, or they're running ghost kitchens. Is there a way that we could engage them? Is there a way we can leverage our partnerships with, we have access to some Michelin star chefs through our partnership with OVG. What a great experience for members of the 4-H community, FFA community, or generally the youth community to come in and receive a 4-hour teaching from a Michelin star chef. So the programming it's really out there at this point for discussion. We've had some good open conversations. We've hit pause on engaging the stakeholder group because the stakeholder group was so focused on the kitchen being in McKee, and now that it's not, we want to start thinking about how could that programming look if it's more centralized as a community building.
Yeah, I think about a couple spaces in Fort Collins that are used, like Ginger and Baker, and then there's something in the Upper Galleria, I think, that's used for, and there's a lot of popularity around classes for people to learn how to, I think everybody watches the cooking shows, and now they want to do that themselves. So, no, I think that you're right. I'm glad we're envisioning it for other things. I think it'll be great for 4-H, but if we can use it for other purposes and really get full use out of it, I think that would be great. And then I guess the only other thing for me is with additional parking, do we plan on any EV chargers being in some of these spaces?
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner. We do. I'm working with the manager's office currently. We'll be installing 8 EV chargers. I believe the funding cycle for that ends here in the next couple of weeks. And those EV chargers will be installed in parking lot B. So the large parking lot that essentially runs the length of the embassy. So that will bring our total count of EV charging stations at the ranch to 18. So we have 10 existing. They live in parking lot H, which is where the embassy resides. We've got 10 Tesla fast charging stations. These will not be Tesla that go in parking lot B, but the brand that the county is using, which I can't recall the name of.
I can't recall the name either, but they're level 2 charging stations, so they're not the slow, they're not the super fast, they're those right in the middle that we are kind of installing across the county.
Great, no, that's exciting. And then, I appreciate your comments on not wanting to make big fields of asphalt because, it doesn't look good, and then sometimes it becomes underutilized when there's. So in that spirit, what does it look like for transit or shuttles or other opportunities to get there? Because I know that there's a lot of, spaces, like thinking about some spaces in downtown Denver or other places where they've effectively used kind of shuttles or really gotten people on transit and really encouraged that. So do you envision that being a piece of our parking solution?
I do, Commissioner. It's interesting. There's lots of different little facets to the conversation. We have the bus stop when we're working with Colt, and the City of Littleton Transportation has been wonderful to work with. Very flexible. It's great to have that route. The route just doesn't. I don't think we nailed it on the first go around with the timing of the route. You can get to an event, but if the event runs after 7:00. There's no service. So is there a way we're working with downtown Loveland to authority to see if we can maximize our abilities between the two entities? We don't have an issue getting people coming to the ranch, but they have to drive. And when they drive, we also want to be mindful, there's other businesses around that offer services that we don't offer in like a downtown Loveland or Windsor or Johnstown. How can we enable people to get to those spaces? So we're working with some of those authorities and districts to see if we can really encourage people to go to place A, B, or C and take that decision away so they don't have to think about where they're going to go eat, that we try and make that easy for them. We're also then thinking internally, if I'm going to a Blue Arena event and the only parking made available to me, for whatever reason, was along County Road 5, I hope that I got my hiking shoes on because that's a walk. So what are we doing internally to make it more accessible for people? And also during the heat of the summer, we've got some of our biggest events going on, and we see people being fatigued annually with those 80, 90, 100-degree days when they have to go walk to see their youth showing in the barns or go to an event. So we're looking at hop shuttles, which essentially are open structures that have seats pointing outwards, so they're easy to get on and off, that are pulled by a pickup truck. So low cost to institute and to maintain, but pretty effective, that can haul up to 48 people. So we can be offering shuttle services during some of those events.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I think we'll kind of keep thinking on that. I think about some of the work we're doing on 34, and I know this is not right off 34, but we did create a transportation management organization on Highway 34, and how can that play a role in sort of helping, is Centerra willing to, I mean, is there buy-in for some other groups where this doesn't have to be our just us doing this, that there can be a lot of businesses out in that area that might want to explore that, and especially people especially businesses that are employing people where they struggle with transportation. So I think that there's some opportunities to see what we can do with some other groups who are, relatively close to that area, that are really looking at, the lack of transportation in sort of that area. So, I think that there's some possibilities. I can make some connections too. I think that's it for me. Any other questions? Commissioner Shattuck McNally.
Thank you, Commissioner. My head's kind of visioning of kind of all the things you shared. So a couple of things you said, maybe back on to the Baker-Homa, First National Baker-Omaha building. That's something that we've kind of talked on off and on even before you came, Connor, about how that space is awkward for sometimes people to use. And it was something we had in previous discussions when we first came on the board about how we can upgrade that to be a better convention space or event space. So what you were saying is that we're looking at that and how we can, because I know the doors aren't really great for getting some types of vehicles in to move things. And so I'm just wondering what that looks like. And we know that hotel and event space is a premium right now, or needed, across the state. There's a lot of folks who are looking for that space and having those connections where the hotels and stuff are close, and the restaurants as well. So there's two questions. I'll start with that part of that first. Can you go into a little more detail about that? Because I know that building needs a little love. So.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. Not directly answering the question, but you did hit on a really important point too that will lead me into the answer to my question on hotels. You're 100% right. Hotels in this area are a premium. When you see hotels that are in the 80 to 90% capacity range of occupancy, that's a high demand asset. So we are mindful of that as we also build the convention space. The First National Bank building, it was a building built back in 2002, 2003 with the mindset that people had of what the ranch was going to be. And at that point, it was going to be a fairgrounds with some additional entertainment opportunities. And our proof of concept has really, to all the folks before us and my colleagues, we've really been able to prove that the ranch is much bigger and has a much greater asset in the community than a replacement of a fairgrounds. So, for good or for bad, the building doesn't meet the needs of event goers or the event organizers. We would look to, we call them lean-to buildings, but essentially the outer perimeter of the First National Bank, so the concrete buildings that you see that surround the clear span building on the interior, those buildings were built disconnected from one another. So we could keep the concrete components where my office is, where the restrooms are, where the sheriff's platoon is, and where we have those 3 conference rooms that we refer to as the Larimer County Convention Center, and then build on to that existing footprint a larger, we would demolish the large clearspan building, our pre-engineered metal building, and build a larger pre-engineered metal building onto the existing concrete, and essentially pushing everything out towards the existing service road. And then we would engulf the service road into becoming part of the new load and permit lot. So we wouldn't be changing too much of a flow for people. The pattern would still be the same. We would just be increasing the volume of our capacity and the volume of people that we could serve within a similar footprint.
Okay, thank you. And so in other words, you're saying that you could expand or upgrade this building, then that's kind of something we're looking at still. Okay, so my second question, if I might, Madam Chair Pro Tem, and then I'll maybe offline. You mentioned about back with the signs and the numbers, because you started mentioning about a potential other, what was it, sponsorship of buildings or something like that. So that's ongoing, and that would help with, we have one restaurant there. There's lots of other restaurants that are close by but kind of off. So I'm just curious what that looks like as well. I mean, no details, but those are opportunities we didn't have before that we're exploring for future opportunities. So.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. Again, going back to the proof of concept, when the ranch was erected, the naming rights deal with Anheuser-Busch was $75,000 a year for 20 years. Through partnership with Blue, 20 years later, we signed a $7.5 million over 10 years, or $750,000 a year. The ranch has grown to become something different. So has Northern Colorado has grown to become something different. So the opportunities are there. It's our opportunity really to maximize on what assets can we offer the community and our partners through sponsorship. So some of the new assets would include the First National Bank, and as public information that partnership has ended for that building, and the new naming rights partner will be announced in September. The stage or the amphitheater area, that would be a naming rights opportunity for someone as well as the event lawn. And the more opportunities we can give those partners to get exposure to individuals in Northern Colorado and the visitors, I think that's a great opportunity for those businesses and a way for us to support them, while in turn they support the work of the ranch and the county. So did that answer your question, Commissioner?
Yes, it did. Thank you, Connor. And thank you. And I'll just end with this because I'll probably have other questions. I want to just thank you and your team. You've taken this tremendous work. You have taken this to a whole new level, and you keep talking about proof of concept, but this has been your leadership and kind of your innovation and the teamwork and the empowering of your team that you have accomplished, and the things you guys have done together, and the new collaboration and partnerships are outstanding, and it has been very noticed by me. And I just have to thank you I just want to commend you for your work. Thank you. It's really exciting to see, and it certainly pretty much a new era for the ranch and for Blue Ray and all these areas. I just want to commend you for your work and say thank you.
Yeah, I would just echo those thanks. We really appreciate your leadership as we look to be more self-sustaining and really envision the ranch as a entertainment complex in a way, right? That's but also a community serving, area. So it's become, I think, much more than we ever envisioned, and that's important. County Manager, do you have anything to add?
I wanted to, add on to what you all are saying. The idea that Connor came in and looked at this with fresh eyes has really, I think, provided a lot of different opportunities for us, starting with the Blue Arena and continuing throughout the campus. So I would say continue to be curious about what can be done. You're great at engaging the community, really trying to meet their needs as well, because it is a community facility as well as something we want to sustain itself well into the future. So, yeah, thanks for what you've been doing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Speaking of community, sorry, I have one more question, or maybe or ask, if I might. because it is a community space and we have great partnerships and we use it a lot for nonprofits and of course the Fair and Rodeo and 4-H. And we talked about the new 4-H building and community arena, right? So lots of names to remember. You said you had lots of feedback, and I don't know if we have data from how much activity was in the old buildings and how 4-H utilized that and how many folks and how many activities. A lot of that shifted over to the new. Looking at, I'm assuming we have more opportunities, more activities, more hours, and I'm making the assumption that you're comparing and understanding and tracking some of that and some of that feedback and the number of hours and groups. And I'd be very curious in a few months, because I know you've been here for a year, 2 years, yeah. And I know you've been through 2 fairs and rodeos and lots of activities. Be very curious to track kind of activities and youth engagement and youth leadership and also what this next fair and rodeo after this, how this all looks. And my assumption is just that there'll be ability for more people to have the spaces and the activities and kind of just their feedback. I'd be very curious if you wouldn't, I don't want to give direction, but I think you're probably collecting this. I'd be very curious in that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. We are collecting the data. I have really impressed upon staff to be cautious in year one. There's so much to work out in the first year of a new home, of a new car, of a new building. I don't want any of our teams, whether it be at the ranch or the extensions, to kid ourselves that we're going to get it right as soon as we open the building. And we haven't so far. We've had some errors. We've had some things that were omitted from purchasing that are key to running certain aspects of the building. But those things are all solvable. We dedicated resources to the building to make sure the community had an operating facility that met their needs from a multi-purpose facility. Getting that feedback from Extension, from the 4-H institutional leaders and key leaders has been great. They're packed to the brim right now with equipment that is coming in that we just didn't think about, and we collectively didn't think about. But again, it's solvable. We're working through it. We're just over 2 months into the new building, and we've had a lot of people come through the doors. We have ride nights, which we haven't had in the past, since that would have been consuming a commercial space. That's new to the area. That was previously happening at some private facilities, and we've had some really good camps and clinics in there in preparation for the county fair, and we have areas for improvement moving forward to them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Connor. I appreciate that. We probably need to move on because I think we have some other updates and they may take a while. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much, Connor. And I will pass it along to Rebecca for her updates, and then I just have a couple too. So if you do have other questions for Connor, if you want to stick around for a little bit, I think we just need about 5 minutes probably on our part. So, thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Rebecca Everett, Community Development Director, and I will be brief today. My only update for you is that next week's land use hearing, the July 24th land use hearing, has been canceled. We did not have any items that needed to be heard. So your next land use hearing with us will be July 8th. So we'll see you then. And that's it for today, unless you have any questions for me about anything community development related.
I don't have anything, Commissioner. No, I don't think so. Okay. Well, we'll definitely see you on the 8th then.
Okay, and Leslie Ellis again, and the update I have for you regards an item that you have on your consent agenda tomorrow at Admin Matters, and just wanted to put it in front of you in case you had any questions, but you've had some conversations with Dwayne Penny and Lori about the water tank MOU with Fort Collins Loveland Water District, and so what they have signed and put in your packet is an MOU that establishes a collaboration between the county and the Water District pending approval through our planning process. As you recall, this has been a conversation for a couple of years now about establishing a water tank in the northeast corner of the property, or southwest corner of the property of the solid waste property, and a water line that extends along to the east and past the behavioral health facility. And so that would enable the Water District to put a treated water storage tank there buried in that location. And so this MOU just enables that process to continue with pending our planning process. So if you have any questions about that, let me know, and we can get those answered for you.
Any questions, Commissioner?
I'll ask offline.
Okay.
Thank you.
I guess the only question that, I'm glad you just brought this forward because I think it's important, and this is water for the residents that reside in our community. So in South Fort Collins and North Loveland, I believe, is that correct?
Yes.
So I'm glad we could come to an agreement on that. I think it's good when governmental bodies can do that, and we came to a successful solution for both them and for our property. So thank you for working through that. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. And that's it for
That's it?
updates on my part as well.
All right. Well, I thought we might have had more. So any other questions before we close out today? Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. Thanks for the update, Connor. Thank you, Rebecca and Leslie. And it is 2:16, and we are adjourned. Thank you.